Hello, and welcome to Insert Character. It's a show that's Comicstorian Patreon early access. If you're watching it on there, cool, hello. If you're not, hello still. Today, I have Benny, the titular man himself, the Comicstorian, with me.
Is that really how that's pronounced? Titular?
Yeah, titular.
I don't think you're supposed to emphasize the tit part.
Well, maybe I want to. Makes me feel good.
Oh, I don't know where we're gonna go with this. Where's this podcast going? Right in the intro.
It's about favorite comic book characters or just characters in general. I haven't decided yet, but most of my guests like comics, so it's probably going to be about.
Are you sure?
Do you not like comics?
I don't. No, I don't like comics at all. I'm letting the secret out.
Oh man, exposed on Insert
You've exposed
Character.
me. Yeah.
All right. Well, so that being said, what character have you brought with you today, Benny?
Agent Venom.
I
figured I could just go a little deeper into my Agent Venom video that you put together for me.
Yeah. So Flash Thompson specifically, I imagine.
Yes. Well, there's only one Agent Venom. There's Venom.
I'm sure there's some alternate universe where like Eddie Brock was Agent Venom or something.
No. Oh, there is that weird history where the Vietnam people are Agent Venoms in that, but that's newer. We're not playing that game right now.
That's fair. So what do you like about Agent Venom? What drives you to him?
Pretty much like I said in the video I had, but like the struggle that he has to go through, being, he goes to war, he tries to become the hero that Spider-Man made him out to be, and it turns into him basically being like, how could I become a hero? Oh, I did it by saving my battle buddies, and now I've lost my legs. How could I still manage to survive? How can I become something more than just another handicapped vet? And that I feel like him getting the option to become Venom is that route. That's where he goes to get this.
Yeah. So you definitely probably a big thing of that is like I feel like a huge part of liking a character in any media, and this is true for my favorite as well, is being able to relate to that character in some respect. So I imagine your time in the military is a huge proponent of you liking Agent Venom, I'm sure.
It really is, because everyone who joins the military, I've said this before, but everyone who joins the military, you always have that, even if you're not there to be, like, I'm not going to be a soldier, I don't want to do it. You get drilled in your head 24/7. Oh, you could be special forces. You could be a soldier. You could be what everyone wants to be. You could be Jason Bourne if you want to be. All of that's drilled in your head. So for many of us, myself included, that dream gets built up and then cut off. And for someone like Agent Venom, even though he's a comic book character, and he becomes Venom, but it's like, even though he's a handicapped vet, he became this big-time superhero character. He got to fulfill his dreams and become someone that even Spider-Man himself idolized later.
Yeah. So another big part of this, because this isn't going to happen every episode, I'm sure, but I know a relatively good amount about Flash Thompson and Agent Venom, especially after editing the video that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So originally Flash Thompson, and he was in this status quo role for a while, he was the bully. He was Peter Parker's bully. And that's sort of how he's been portrayed in, the media that's like the Spider-Man adaptations, whether that be the movies, the animations, anything like that. Do you think that you relate to that in any aspect?
Kind of. I mean, I'm a big guy in general. I was never and I've always been very outgoing. I think it's because my social skills are very weirdly developed, being in and out of public school and doing homeschool is the alternative. So I've always been kind of that weird, awkward guy, and a lot of people are just scared of me and always treated me like the bully. And definitely when I was younger, I kind of fell into that role because of that. Everyone assuming that this big lumbering guy is going to be, he's going to bully me. Oh, if you think I'm going to bully you, I'm only 17, so I guess I'm going to bully you. And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So I kind of related with that, and the fact that he was able to move past that and become a hero, join the military, find a new footing for himself,
Yeah.
And I always found it funny how long it took for Spider-Man to get over the fact that his bully had moved on. But at the same time, I get it, because he tormented him forever. So no matter what Flash Thompson did, Spider-Man's always like, yeah, but you're still that butthead.
Right. Yeah, like I can remember there's some scenes in Ultimate Spider-Man where, and I think even in some of the cartoons as well, where like Flash is trying to redeem himself, and they get like more in depth in his character of like why he's such a dick, of just him like, having abusive parents and stuff like that. Yeah. And Flash like trying to reach out to Peter and be like, hey, I'm sorry, but Peter's like, no, what are you trying to talk to me about? This is weird. You're just gonna go like throw my head in a toilet or something.
Was it the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon? Because I don't like that portrayal. But yeah, that's pretty
I don't
much what happens there.
I remember there's some Spider-Man cartoon where they have an episode like basically completely dedicated to Flash and showing his sort of backstory. I don't remember if it was Spectacular or Ultimate, but
yeah, I think I know the one you're talking about. And I can't think of which one it is. I think they all had one of those. Because in Ultimate, he becomes Agent Venom. But I'm pretty sure in the 90s Spider-Man, he just was there. And the same thing with Spectacular. He was just there.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched a couple seasons of Ultimate just sort of in the background, and it's fine.
I don't mind Ultimate Spider-Man. Only problem I had with it is they went too crazy on the chibi. So the later seasons worked fine because they kind of cut way down on that stuff.
Yeah, I remember the Deadpool episodes were really strange because it was like, oh, it's Deadpool and also Deadpool.
Yeah.
It's just sort of the same characterization. But yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know who Agent Venom is, can you sort of explain how, I mean, we sort of talked about Flash Thompson being Peter Parker's bully, but how did that transition between Flash Thompson, the typical, stereotypical bully, to Agent Venom, this hero who has recently, spectacularly and tragically died? How did that transition happen?
Well, it's actually two different characters because Venom and Flash Thompson are two different people. It's not like Flash Thompson just put the suit on one day. So you get the journey of Flash Thompson going from being the bully to going to, I'm gonna try to move on. I'm gonna go to college, and then he goes to sign up for the military, and he goes into the war, which they adapted for what's going on. But he goes into the war, and he decides to basically ultimately go to the Iraq War, where he saves somebody, loses his legs over that, becoming a handicapped vet. Then he's given the option to join the Super Soldier program, where they have the Venom symbiote, which has supposedly been lobotomized at this point. So he should have full control over it. And it becomes Agent Venom, where he then starts working with Captain America, and he works behind the scenes. And he ends up working with Spider-Man, but Spider-Man never really trusts him until right towards the very end of the whole thing. And he also goes into space as Agent Venom, where he learns about the Clintar. He's the one that actually discovered the actual origins of the symbiotes. So it's not just a weird alien thing. It's a whole race of people. And I'm going to echo badly because I pulled out my own headphones. There we go. But yeah, no, it's a whole thing like where they discover all these stuff about the character. And then he comes back and his symbiote gives birth to another symbiote. So he ends up having Mania, and he's got to train Mania how to do things. It's a whole thing. But we also get the side, and this is what I really like about it, we have Flash's redemption, but we also have Venom's redemption. Because when Venom came down, as we discovered with the Clintar, the symbiotes have a tendency to take on the emotions of who they're attached to. So Spider-Man first getting it, and it being kind of like, I think they said it was like mentally damaged the way when it first came down, but it attached to Spider-Man's feelings and his desires to be a hero, but at the same time it was like that darker side of him. And then when he attached over to Eddie Brock, he got all of Eddie Brock's hatred, and that's what turned Venom into this brain-eating alien kind of a thing. And then that, he separates from Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock goes on a different journey, becoming Agent Venom, not Agent Venom, he goes Anti-Venom, or was it Riot? I don't know. He goes through a lot of symbiotes.
Yeah, there's a lot of Venom stuff.
Yeah, but Eddie goes through a whole bunch of symbiotes on his own, but that left Venom off on his own, and the government collected it, and they were just like, well, we don't know what this is, so let's lobotomize it and try to make it into a weapon, because that's the government in every comic book.
Right.
So you get the journey of not just Agent Venom, but you get Flash and Venom both trying to become heroes. And as Venom becomes more aware of himself and he becomes more aware of the Clintar and what his purpose is, he starts wanting to be a hero. He's never gotten away from that from Spider-Man. He just wants to be a hero. Being attached to Flash, he's no longer consumed by his rage. So he's able to try and actually become a hero, helping Flash, who's helping Venom. And that's one of the things I like about the character. It's like they're the ultimate battle buddies. They're there together to the end, until they get separated because of retcons. But, that's what I loved about them.
Yeah, speaking of those retcons, I was going to ask you, because I was reading Venom, I've read a little bit of Agent Venom stuff just like through osmosis, through reading Spider-Man stuff, but I jumped on to reading the Venom book when they relaunched it with Lee Price. And I actually kind of enjoyed that, but that was as someone who wasn't attached to Flash Thompson and didn't know much about him. So as someone who really loves Agent Venom, that whole confusing time where the symbiote was being changed in and out between Lee Price, Eddie Brock, and Matt Gargan showed up again for a second. What did you think about all that?
That was horrible because I'm fine if they want to change out the owners, but they ended the Agent Venom run where he was fine. Everything was good to go. And then we just start up with Lee Price and it's like, Venom's not attached to Flash anymore. Where did Venom go? No one knows. And they didn't want to answer that, but they got such a huge amount of backlash. I honestly don't think Lee Price was supposed to be 6 issues. Yeah. I think they were supposed to build up Lee Price for a while.
I felt and the then same
he
way.
was going to, yeah. And I feel like they got such a backlash to it. They were like, we can't bring back Flash, just bring back Eddie. You know, like maybe the end goal was to give it to Eddie, but I feel like Lee Price was supposed to be there for a lot longer than he was.
Yeah.
And that whole time was confusing because during all of that until issue 7 or 8, we got no explanation to Flash Thompson or what had happened to Venom at all. It was just Venom was separated. Now it was with Lee Price. Now it's with Eddie. Where is it? Oh, Matt Gargan? Why is Matt Gargan back? You know, like...
I remember
I boycotted it hardcore and everything we were doing. I was like, I will not read this until Marvel explains to me what happened to Flash Thompson.
And
they did it. They did in issue 7 as a backup, but no one told me, so I didn't jump back on to like issue 12.
Fair enough. Yeah, because I remember seeing, like, hearing probably you as well on Twitter, like people being like, "What happened to Flash Thompson?" And I, as someone who wasn't reading Guardians, wasn't reading like Space Knight or whatever, was like, "Oh, well, I don't care," because it didn't bother me. And I honestly think now that I'm like in hindsight looking back on it was, so the characterization of Venom itself, the symbiote itself, was it talking and it sort of wanting to be a hero and wanting to reconnect with Flash and Peter to get its like good side back. Was that something that was introduced with Flash Thompson, or was that something that was new with Lee Price?
Oh, the Venom trying to be a hero?
Yeah, and it like talking to the host.
No, that was introduced to Flash Thompson.
Okay.
So when he first got it, the Venom symbiote couldn't talk. They had developed it eventually to like it got its own mind back, and when it went back to the Clintar, it became 100% aware of everything.
Okay.
And the whole Space Knight thing was a part of that. It was like, you're supposed to be in space saving people. You're not supposed to be on Earth being crazy. And that was a part of all of that. But he always used that like, we want to be a hero like Spider-Man and Flash. That was always his argument. So when Lee Price took it over, that was why he was arguing with him. Like, no, we have to be a hero. We've been working to be a hero.
Right.
But the Clintar have a tendency to, whatever the emotion of the person they're attached to is, they attach to that as well.
Yeah.
So that was where his struggle came in, because he was like, I want to be a hero, but Lee Price wants me to murder people. But heroes don't murder people. You know, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. That's interesting, because that's definitely like when I was reading that Lee Price run, the one thing that made me really interested in that book was the relationship between Venom and Lee Price. Like Lee Price himself is sort of a wet blanket. He's just sort of a, bad guy. And I'm sure they were trying to develop him into other things, but Venom like crying out, being like the little symbiote on his shoulder, being like, no, we're trying to be good. I was like, oh, that's something that I haven't seen before from Venom, and that's really interesting. So
it is, and that's where the direction I think they were going to go. Like, ultimately, Venom was going to, overcome Lee Price and become the hero, and then he would have gone back to Eddie or Flash. But the whole issue of nobody buying the Lee Price book was like, oh, we can't do that.
Right. That makes sense.
One thing I did find weird when they did Lee Price, that whole thing on the shoulder, because that was never a thing with Flash. Flash could talk to it, but Venom wasn't like separate, like a little being. I almost feel like the Lee Price thing was them trying to recreate the darkness from like the early 2000s with Witchblade and stuff. Yeah. I was like, why does Marvel need a darkness? And if you're going to do that, why are you doing it to Venom? Like...
That honestly, that could have just been like an artistic choice from the artist, just to be like, hey, we want to visually show this. And maybe I remember them sort of hinting at like, because Venom does like, he pops up on Lee's shoulder when they're just talking and no one like talking to other people and no one mentions it. So the way I took it was sort of Lee like going crazy, and that's what he sees as Venom's talking, just so the artist
could be it, yeah.
like the artist has a place to, or the letterer I guess has a place to put the word bubbles as opposed to them all being thought bubbles.
Right.
I don't remember. I'd have to go back and read it, but
I mean, I didn't give it that much of it. Like I didn't really like it. So like, after issue 2, I just dropped it, and I'm like, I'm not reading into this. Tell me what happened to Flash.
I totally get that from from what I heard from people that really like Flash Thompson were reading that, it's just suddenly gone. Like Flash was just gone, and Venom was with this new dude who no one had ever heard of before.
Right. You're a fan of Spider-Woman, right?
Yeah.
Jessica Drew Spider-Woman. How would you feel if tomorrow they released a new issue 1, Spider-Woman returns,
and her baby was gone?
and they don't explain where she went?
I'd be so angry.
That's what I mean. A brand new superhero in her costume, old or new, doesn't matter. But it's not Jessica Drew.
Yeah. That would be so weird. But
that was the problem with Flash Thompson fans, because there was no explanation. We ended the story in a happy note, and now Venom's back with no Flash. Why?
Right. It's just like, what's going on here? It's definitely a Marvel move to pull, especially lately.
But I mean, you could take that with anybody's favorite superhero, and you're just like, why would you do this?
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's like a big thing about like a larger discussion of just, you know, like mantles as opposed to names, of when a character has when their name becomes a mantle. Like Iron Man is Tony Stark. When that becomes, and I feel like it still hasn't, it sort of did early on in his career, when Iron Man becomes a title as opposed to Tony Stark's alter ego.
See, here's what I dislike about that. I believe in the mantle idea, but it doesn't work just across the board like Marvel wants it to.
Yeah.
Thor is Thor. I loved Jane Foster Thor, but she was never Thor, and she never will be Thor, because Thor is literally the guy's name.
Yeah.
They couldn't even with that retcon, they couldn't keep it straight.
Yeah.
They'd be in the past before he even had the hammer, and it's like, Thor, come over here, Thor. It's like, no, you renamed him to Odin's son. You shouldn't do that.
And that's sort of interesting to me, because I don't know if I've fully made my mind up about that yet, because I initially, it was dumb that Jane was just called Thor, even before we knew she was Thor, but I liked the reasoning that Jason Aaron gave in the book of the Odinson, saying that like he's so defeated and so depressed that he's unworthy now. That he's just like, I don't even deserve my name anymore. You have it, and then he leaves. And you're like, oh damn, like Odinson is messed up now.
And that at least made sense to an extent, you know. But then it's just like, but you can't then be like, well, Thor is not really Thor. It's Thor is whoever has the hammer. Like, no, it's almost like they wanted to make Jane Foster Thor, which I like. I loved her run. I thought it was a great story.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
But it's like, I literally feel like they had a meeting and they sat down and they're like, we're gonna make Jane Foster Thor. And they're like, okay, that's a great idea. What do you mean you're going to make her Thor? We're going to give her the hammer, and then she's going to become a Thor-like character. And they're like, but who's going to buy that? And they're like, well, we'll give her a name, and we'll make it the only Thor book right now. And then somebody at Marvel's like, well, why don't we just call it Thor? Right. And they're like, okay, we'll call the book Thor, but here's her name. They're like, well, why don't we just call her Thor? You know, like, and it's just like, that's his name. Like, Iron Man's a great one. Like, Riri has now developed into a character, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
But even when she started, she's like, my name's Ironheart. Like, why isn't it Iron Man? That doesn't make sense.
That's Riri is another really interesting example, because that's sort of what I was hitting on earlier, of just like a character, when a character's name becomes a title, sometimes they take it and they use it.
Yeah.
Like Spider-Woman is a good example, because in 616 there have been at least 3 characters to use the name Spider-Woman for a while,
and it works because it is just a title. And Venom's the same way. Venom is the symbiote, so whoever technically has the symbiote is Venom. Right. And we've seen that pass before. It's not just, oh, now it's Lee. Yeah. It's passed on before.
And I think the real crux of that, which is interesting to look at historically, is just it has to be introduced as a title early enough in the character's history. Yeah. Because like the reason nobody was upset of Carol Danvers, I'm sure some people were, but of Carol Danvers transitioning from, what was she, Warbird at the time? Before she was Captain Marvel, transitioning from whatever that was to Captain
Miss Marvel, Warbird, and then there was
Binary at some point.
Binary, that was it. Yeah. Then it was Captain Marvel.
And then when nobody cared about that, because the original Captain Marvel had been dead and not been around forever.
I mean, she got some backlash, but nowhere near as much backlash as like Thor did. Like,
exactly.
Thor got Jane. I feel like that hurt the comic so much because it was such a good run, but there were so many people that were like, "That's not Thor. I'm not reading it."
Yeah,
and that was the end of it. Like,
there's people just being confused, like seeing Thor on the title and being like, "Why is like?" I know a lot of people back when it was announced that. I mean, they didn't announce that Jane was going to become Thor, but that there's a new Thor and she's a woman. Everyone who didn't know what was going on was like, "Wait. Why did they just gender bend Thor and call it a different character?" was like, that's not what was happening, but that's what it looked like was happening.
It didn't help that her costume was so close to the original Thor's. Like, it wasn't that much. And it's funny because it's almost like Marvel realized this mistake. Every other incarnation of her, 2 characters have been renamed recently, and that is Spider-Gwen is now Ghost Spider.
Well,
But Jane Foster Thor is Thunderstrike in every other form of media.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I didn't know that one.
If you look her in the TV shows and stuff, she's made appearances. She's called Thunderstrike now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I do want to clear something up about Ghost Spider.
Oh, okay, because you're a fan of Spider-Gwen, so you know more about this than I do.
We're going way off topic here, but, well, there's a Venom in Earth 65. We can talk about it.
Gwenum. It's Gwenum now.
Gwenum,
like
yep. She
Gwenum
still
was
has
cool.
that. So Ghost Spider, as far as I know it, right now, currently, in comic canon, is nowhere. Ghost Spider is only her name in Marvel Rising. And the reason that everyone, including myself for a while, thought that they were changing her name to Ghost Spider everywhere is because they didn't make that clear. And in the comic, in the actual Spider-Gwen comic, they looked like they were leading up to a name change from Spider-Woman to something else. What ended up happening was, I get spoilers for the last couple issues of Spider-Gwen, what ended up happening was they changed her name from Spider-Woman to Spider-Gwen. She's now actually in canon called Spider-Gwen. But she hasn't actually been called Ghost Spider yet in the comics.
So at San Diego Comic-Con this year, Spider-Gwen is ending on issue 34 on July 18th, so it's done.
Yeah.
And the new book is Ghost Spider.
The new book is.
Supposedly. They had teased the announcement of Ghost Spider during the publishing of Spider-Man panel and Comic-Con San Diego, with the image showing the character most recognizably as Spider-Gwen, a.k.a. Spider-Woman, a.k.a. Gwen Stacy. The character goes by Ghost Spider in Marvel Rising All Ages storyline, but with co-creators Jason Latour and Robbie Rodriguez ending their Spider-Man run, a Spider-Gwen run with issue 34. Just days before the panel, this teaser may signal the character adopting the name in other contexts. Because they showed like the cover of what it could potentially. I don't think they know what they're doing, because I think the difference between Jane Foster Thor becoming Thunderstrike, that's one thing, because you can't literally have 2 people calling themselves Thor for branding and marketing and
it's just
sales purposes. Right. So that's fine, and you can call her Thunderstrike and bring her back and do all that kind of stuff. I think the problem they're having is they realize Spider-Gwen is a dumb name.
Yeah. Well, it
was supposed to be a spoof character that was never supposed to live, and now you're just stuck with her.
And then it's to get a little more specific, in the last issue, in issue 34, there's literally a line that Gwen says in her internal monologue when she's trying to like decide what she wants to do with her powers now that she's, I won't spoil too many details, but she's
your show. I mean,
yeah, well, I don't. It's a good book. You should read it. She's deciding what she wants to go towards. It's a classic like ending looping up of like where the character is going to go from here. She literally says in her internal monologue something along the lines of, maybe I should be a ghost on the wall. And you're like, oh, they're going to call her Ghost Spider in this issue. But no.
So, the worst part about Ghost Spider is actually a character from another universe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he is, if I remember correctly. Let me pull him up. I believe he's like a Ghost Rider Spider-Man.
Oh, is it like an amalgam character?
No. It's Ghost Rider and Spider-Man are both Marvel, dude.
Yeah, I realized that as soon as the word amalgam left my mouth.
Earth 1163-8. In this reality, this is the one where he basically it's Spider-Man with the powers of Ghost Rider.
Cool.
He's Ghost Spider, and that's legit his name in the panel.
I like Ghost Man with a hyphen better. Ghost Man.
Ghost Peter.
Ghost Peter. There you go.
Ghost Peter.
But yeah, so sort of circling back vaguely to Venom, Agent Venom.
Oh, real quick then, because Agent Venom is a mantle that can be passed on. I also feel Captain America is a good mantle to be passed on.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't feel characters like Hulk is a good mantle to pass on. Amadeus Cho should never have been Amadeus Cho Hulk. It should have been someone else. But
yeah, well, that's also sort of interesting, because Hulk was never a superhero name, I'd say. It's more of a monster name. Yeah. So, looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, smashes like a Hulk, looks like a Hulk. It's a Hulk. But,
it's a Hulk.
But, yeah, so sort of relating Earth 65, Spider-Woman, and Agent Venom, are there any, because I don't know much about Agent Venom himself or alternate universe Agent Venoms, are there any alternate universe takes on either Flash Thompson or Agent Venom that you like?
I don't think there are any, on all honesty. I don't know of any other than like the animated version, as far as I know. And that one is not a soldier. He's just a bully who got the powers.
Yeah. I feel like knowing Marvel, there's probably at least 5 like Agent Venoms that have appeared in alternate universes, but they're identical to 616's.
Yeah, as far as I know, the only time we've ever seen other ones was brief mentions in Venomverse.
Okay.
And I think that's all there ever has been.
Because I didn't read Venomverse, and I've heard people talk about it, and
it's actually really good.
I've heard that, and I've heard it's really bad.
It's really good in the sense of if you want to see Venoms fighting, this is the book for you.
Okay, so
if you're looking for some deep philosophical, it's a popcorn book. It's like Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse was not deep.
No,
but you got to see a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And you got to see some dumb energy vampires hang out.
Oh yeah, those are awesome. I love them.
We're getting them again later this year. Who is excited?
Oh, hey, cool. I did a Google search for Agent Venom, and I'm the top 2 and 3 options.
There you go. That
Variant Comics is ahead of me. Damn you, Eris!
No. that gives your you print that out on a card that's like, here's how much I like Agent Venom. I'm the top 2 and 3 results.
and then followed up by damn you, Eris!
Yep. Perfect. But yeah, Agent Venom, he's a fun character.
I like him. I like him a lot.
He's a cool dude. Do you have any favorite Agent Venom or Flash Thompson stories?
There's this one called Circle of 4 where he passes the Venom symbiote on to Red Hulk, who also gets the Ghost Rider powers, and he rides the motorcycle and he looks cool.
What? That sounds amazing.
It is. Hold on. I'm going to look this up real fast, see if I can get the image for you, and you can put it on your screen or whatever you're going to do with it.
Does that happen in canon? Or
yeah, that's in canon.
Huh. Fun.
And I think they also, because they were fighting the devil in Vegas. Yeah.
Oh,
X23
gotcha.
is in there somehow, but none of the powers get passed from her. That'd be weird.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I feel like.
Slayer. Oh yeah, no, that was X23. Okay.
Gotcha. Do you have unless you have any more Agent Venom stories you want to recommend to people if they want to get into Agent Venom now?
Agent Venom's still great. Get the whole Rick Remender run. Did a really good job.
I didn't know he was the one who wrote that.
Yeah, he's the one that created who Agent Venom is now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. He's a great writer.
What. Yeah, he is a great writer. Funny thing, both these tweets were deleted, but Donnie Coates, or Cates, I always say his name wrong, made a comment about how he now has the best Venom run ever, and Rick Remender, probably really salty about it, responded with, you're just building on things that I built, which I built on things built by other people. And yeah,
that's just comic books.
Yeah, both tweets were deleted, so I'm pretty sure it was a legit like stab at Donnie Coates.
No, that's always like you can never tell if people are like poking fun or they're actually angry.
Right, until they disappear. Then you're like, oh
no,
Rick Remender guy, he got a little ballsy there.
What do you think of the Donnie Cates Venom run that's happening?
I'm liking it so far. I'm liking his whole take on mixing classic Venom and Agent Venom mythologies. That's good. Cool. Yeah, I'm having fun with it. It's probably the first Venom book that I've cared about in a while, because it was a combination of who was it? The artist. I forget his name. But yeah. So anyway, yeah, you like Agent Venom. It's a good time. I like Agent Venom. I feel like your explanation of both characters involved, Flash Thompson and Venom, both of them having like a simultaneous redemption story, that really sells the character to me. Well, and I think, like I said, that's what makes it interesting, because you're not just getting the soldier redemption, but you're also getting the superhero redemption. Yeah. And then you put them together and you just get such an interesting story. Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, that's the first episode of Insert Character. It was a fun time. Is that what we're calling it? Insert Character? Yeah, Insert Character. With little, it's a reference to, when you, in programming, with the little things. Anyway, the logo's up there. So yeah, where can people find you? I mean, everyone knows who you are, but you're putting this on my Patreon. I know, but it's also going on my channel. So if there's tiny chance that no one knows who you are. Okay, I'm Benny the Comicstorian. You can find me on YouTube at Comicstorian, Twitter at Comicstorian, and Instagram at Comicstorian. Cool. And hi Patreons. Hi patrons, you're cool.
if you guys who are watching have any suggestions on who you want on this podcast, I'm gonna try and get the rest of the Comicstorian and Eligible Monster crew on here, and pepper in some other comic book YouTubers. I'm sure.
Oh, you have a lot of friends in the business.
Yeah, I think next episode is gonna be Dan, who's probably in the room with you right now.
He is. Hi, Dan.
Hi.
But yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Auram Alexander or on YouTube, youtube.com/AuramChaos. Just Google Auram. I'll come up, I'm sure. Anyway.
I'll come up, I'm sure.
It happens. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.